To be able to have access to that $25,000 has been a game changer for a number of people. And I would like to mention that it's actually stackable with other home loan programs. What that means is you're not limited to the 25. Eligible borrowers are able to stack that money with other grant funds. I worked with a buyer rather, a couple months ago, and she ended up going into her house with over 50% equity. I won't go over the purchase price of her home, but through the grant programs that she received,
Hey, well, welcome to the Detroit Metro Plug podcast, where connections matter. I am Charles McKay, aka Charlie the Plug, your host of the Detroit Metro Plug podcast, where connections matter. Every week, every Monday, we go live at 7 or 8, and we bring you Detroit difference makers in the area of entrepreneurship and community involvement. We celebrate their contributions here in the Metro Detroit area. So I want to thank every those who are watching us live on our various platforms, those who will be watching the replay on YouTube, those on our Facebook at the Detroit Metro Plug Podcast, on LinkedIn, and our various platforms. So thank you and for another episode 99. We almost hitting 100 episodes. We're going to do a celebration when we hit 100 plus episodes sometime in April. I don't like to plan things here in Michigan in January, February, or March because the weather is unpredictable here. So, but we're going to do a celebration. I'm going to try to get all my guests to come, kind of like a reunion party. We're going to have a celebrate a guest live podcast. So you'll hear more details about that. But again, happy Monday. Shout out to the Detroit Lions. Great victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I can't believe we're going to an NFC championship game. One game away from the Super Bowl. So go Lions. Shout out to all my native Detroiters. And hopefully everybody's doing good. Be safe out there today in the inclement weather. They're giving us another better weather advisory. All right. So I'm excited about this program, episode 99. We're going to be talking about the American dream, I guess, to buy your own home, have your own space and property, and the different programs here in the city of Detroit metro area that help people with, if you're a first-time buyer and maybe an investor, because if you haven't purchased a home within 3 years, you're considered a first-time buyer, and maybe it's going to be an investment opportunity. So we have a very special guest with a lot of knowledge and experience. She's going to talk about that. But before we get into that, I just want to share, many of you may know, I actually have the shirt on, Black Leaders Detroit. I am an ambassador for that program. This is a great organization. If you believe in inclusion and giving economic opportunity, this is a fund that helps to support local businesses, African-American led nonprofits and businesses. And all it takes is $1 a week or $52 a year. Join me in being a part of making an impact and become a member of Black Leaders Detroit. Right now, they have their funding program. Go to blackleadersdetroit.org, and they have no interest loans. I mean, no interest loans to help you get funding for your business. Go to blackleadersdetroit.org. Let me share this quick info clip about that organization.
Black Leaders Detroit, they knew that during the pandemic, that Black businesses were going to be left out of any type of funding that the government gave. And they wanted to make sure that they were able to figure out how they could step up and help. Because again, this is their community, and they want to make sure that their community is still here when this pandemic is over with. And the only way you can do that is by offering support to your community. And so they stepped up and they did that.
I've been telling everyone I know about Black Leaders Detroit. The things that they're doing is simply amazing. And they're taking care of business for the Black business owners.
It's $1 a week donation to keep this great thing moving. $1 a week keeps it popping. Black Leaders Detroit.
All right. Just as the lady said, $1 a week keeps this thing moving. $1 a week keeps it popping. BlackLeadersDetroit.org. Join and become a member. Also, they have a program. They're going to be giving out grants to nonprofits for Black History Month through all 29. It's a leap year, so 29 days of giving out grants. So I believe 29. I don't know. They're giving out grants through the month of February. You have to be a member to nominate a nonprofit. So become a member, nominate your favorite nonprofit, and we'll see what happens. All right. So let's get into our topic for today and our guest. But I want to share. There was a recent news about I think about 5 or 6 months ago. Detroit mayor made an announcement, and Channel 7 talked about some of the first-time buyer programs here in the city of Detroit. Take a quick look at that.
It's just like everything costs money, especially as a woman. Everything like is just expensive.
She's pleased to learn that the city of Detroit is looking to help renters become homeowners, offering up to $25,000 for mortgage down payment assistance, a $6 million initiative announced today by the mayor and city council members, funds from President Biden's American Rescue Plan.
If you're paying $800 or $1,000 a month in rent, you absolutely can afford a mortgage. You might not be able to afford $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in a down payment.
Mayor Mike Duggan says 13 banks are partnering with the city, where residents can go to get approved for a mortgage if they qualify. The city cites the latest census data showing Detroit has become a majority homeowner city. City officials say the program is part of a $203 million affordable housing plan announced last summer.
This down payment assistance plan will help individuals eliminate the possible fluctuations in rental rates to provide more financial stability and ensure families will have shelter as well as an opportunity to build generational wealth.
There are requirements. Among them, the city says you have to prove you've lived in the city of Detroit for the past 12 months. You cannot have owned a home in the past 3 years. And income requirements. An individual must make under $44,000. A family of 2, under 60 grand. A family of 3, under 75 grand. And a family of 4, under 90 grand. As Williams' future unfolds, she says she hopes the timing is right and the funds are still available if she qualifies.
I graduate in December, so this is something that I hope it's still around when I'm looking for a home in the next year or so.
In Detroit, Darren Cunningham, 7 Action News.
All right. So that's a little clip about what's going on in the city of Detroit. And here to talk about the free grant money, first-time home buyer programs. Also, we're going to get into, if you're an investor, we're going to cover all those topics we have to episode 99. Our next guest is an experienced real estate agent, native Detroiter, Cass Tech, and Wayne State. Shout out to Wayne State. I didn't go to Cass, but Wayne State. She is a consultant at XP Realty. She is a friend of the podcast. She was on 2 years ago, episode number 4, 4 and 5. I clipped up the interview, and she agreed when I just started out the podcast. I didn't have all the fancy equipment and crispy cameras or anything, and she came on and helped a friend out. So let's welcome episode 99, our guest, TaLisa Cohen. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Here we are.
Oh.
Hello, everybody. Good evening, Charles. Thank you so much for having me on here again. When you spoke about my first time being on the podcast, it was truly not, me doing you a favor. I truly believe in the mission for your business, and it aligns with the mission for my business as a realtor and entrepreneur. So I think this is just us collaborating to see forward movement and our shared passion.
Yes, I appreciate it. Well, thank you. I'm here to really serve and amplify local business owners and what they're doing, share their story, how they're doing making positive contributions here in the city of Detroit. So thank you again for being here. And I'm going to share just
Well,
a quick.
before
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I realized I did not necessarily introduce myself. You did an introduction, which I greatly appreciate, but I just
Yeah.
want to speak to the fact that my name is TaLisa Cohen. I'm a
Yeah.
realtor that services the southeastern Michigan area,
Mhm.
and an owner of my business that is tied to real estate is the Next Level Real Estate Group, where our motto is now and next. And that is a quote from somebody, so I don't want to be in trouble. I don't remember the name of the person who spoke, but I believe he was on Earn Your Leisure is where I heard that. And so when I'm working with clients, I speak to them about understanding where they are, because there's power in understanding where you are currently. And then next is where you're trying to go. And I mean, nothing's impossible. So by understanding where you are and where you're trying to go, we work together to put together a comprehensive, cohesive plan to get you there in the shortest amount of time possible, and also, awfully also hopefully saving consumers money. And we'll get more into how I go about doing that, how me and my team go about doing that.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned that I am with EXP Realty, but that is my broker. We're a nationally recognized broker, and I work here in Michigan, but looking forward to adding some additional states so I can service more clients in the future.
All right. All right. Great introduction. I want to share you out in. I shared this on social media, but you're kind of in your zone out in the field. Little clip here. Let's see what we have.
This is TaLisa, your realtor who listens. I'm here at my new listing at 14810 Grigg Street in Detroit, Michigan. This is a 4-bedroom, 2 full bath, fully renovated bungalow style home. So you have bedrooms on the main floor, also bedrooms upstairs. If you are interested or know anyone who's interested in purchasing a home, especially living in Detroit, this is definitely one you should check out. It has lots of room. And did I mention that it qualifies for a lot of different home loan programs where down payment assistance is available, as well as some programs allow for 100% financing. So that means no down payment, just strictly closing costs. If you are interested in information about how to qualify for this home or want to set up a private showing, please feel free to contact me. All right, have a great day.
All right, so that's you in your element there, and I kind of want to get right into it. We showed that video. You talked a little bit about the programs. We showed a clip from the about the city of Detroit, specifically the mayor's office and the programs there. So, so where do we get started? What are some opportunities there for first time home buyers? And I would like for you to clarify, what is a first time home buyer?
So, a first time home buyer, by definition, is a person who has never purchased a home before. Or there's another caveat. If you have been off title and this is probably going to vary depending on the program and depending on the lender. So, I want to state that. So either you've never purchased a home before, meaning either it was cash or you inherited a home from a family member, or purchased one using a mortgage. If you've done that, then, if you're still in that home or within the time period of 3 years, then you are not considered a first time home buyer. But people that don't meet those criteria are typically considered first-time home buyers and may qualify for various programs. And not all of them are dependent upon income, which I love because there's so much opportunity out here in real estate. And I don't know if everybody has seen the article that was posted. I believe it was in the Detroit News today, but it touted that Detroit has seen like 23% property appreciation over the last year. And, we may be able to get into the science of what that means, but that's wealth. And that is building, sustainable financial wealth.
Okay. Wow. Awesome. Awesome. So they have to be off the title for how many years?
So, with 3 years for most lenders, I would say 3 to 5 years. If you have deeded that property or sold that property and haven't gone on title for another one, and, or like we said, of course, if you have not purchased a home or inherited a home and been on title, then you are qualified or classified as a first-time home buyer.
Now, what is this whole not bought a home in three? So let's say if I have a home, I've been in there for 10 years
Yeah.
on a mortgage.
So if you're still on the title, then you are not considered a first-time home buyer in that instance. Because if you think about it, these programs are set up to make home ownership affordable for people who have otherwise felt like it was out of their reach due to
Right.
either income or lack of savings. Um, yeah, basically, or demographics. Some people felt like, or we have seen that some people felt like where they could afford to buy wasn't necessarily someplace they would want to live. So, I don't want to stigmatize the city of Detroit. I'm born and raised in the city of Detroit. And so I'm very proud to see how the city of Detroit has developed. And there's a lot of affordable opportunities there and in the surrounding suburbs.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Um, so what is so the mayor had Detroit has what are the different programs? I mean, it's in the
So I don't
newspaper.
want to go into specifics because time changes things
Right.
drastically. Like when they mentioned during that clip, the $6 million
Yeah.
Detroit City Fund, that actually was depleted and replenished already. So like originally they
Wow.
came out and they had $6 million. And for each eligible applicant, and they went through the criteria of what would make you eligible for the Detroit grant. You also have to qualify for a mortgage that you would get through a lender partner that is approved for that program to work with the city for that program. But each family got $25,000
Wow.
for towards their down payment and closing costs. And so if you do the math, which I did at some point because I'm a numbers person, I'm an analytical person. So I
Right.
like to know like what is the opportunity here. So when I did that math, it's 25,000 divided by or 6 million divided by 25,000. I think what I came up with was about 250
Mhm.
families, which may sound like a lot, but when you're talking about a city with a population over a million and a state population even larger than that, sorry, I didn't look up what the state of Michigan population is, but um, it, well, yeah, it's not unlimited is the point. Um, But I know personally, and not to get into politics or anything, but I know that sometimes people can have a real distrust for politicians and programs, thinking that it's just for TV or just for voter support. But I have actually used this program or worked with buyers that use this program over and over again. And like when I tell you, there is like no greater feeling than being at the closing table with somebody who it's like, I want to buy. I don't want to rent forever. My family has rented forever, but I want to become a homeowner. It's getting too expensive out here. Rent, they can change it whenever they want. To be able to have access to that $25,000 has been a game changer for a number of people. And I would like to mention that it's actually stackable with other home loan programs.
Oh,
What that means is you're not limited to the 25. Eligible borrowers are able to stack that money with other grant funds. I worked with a buyer rather, a couple months ago, and she ended up going into her house with over 50% equity. I won't go over the purchase price of her home, but through the grant programs that she received, which were she got one for 25,000, another for 15,000, another for 7,500 in addition to the seller's concessions that I was able to negotiate for her on this home. Like she was able to get into this house and literally save herself $400 a month approximately, with the difference between what she was paying in rent and what her estimated mortgage payment would be.
wow. So I didn't know that you can stack them. Like I thought
Mhm.
maybe if you got approved for one program.
like it's one and
Yeah,
done. No.
yeah.
So again, I'm talking in very general terms. So it's going to depend on the lender.
Right.
So what bank or lending institution you go to, and it's also going to depend on the loan program. They may have limits as to how much money a borrower can receive in grants, because I want to point that out. These are grants that are forgiven after 3 to 5 years, depending on the program.
Okay. Wow,
Yeah.
man, I got a lot of questions. I'm trying to think about. All right. So, are the programs tied to, for those who are listening, this is podcast focused on in the Detroit, Michigan area, and we primarily live in the county. I live in I call it the Tri-County area of
Okay.
Oakland County, Wayne, Macomb, and I guess you can throw in Washington. So are these programs county specific or?
So the Detroit Home Loan Program is specific to those who have lived in the city of Detroit. That's one of the requirements. You would have had to live in the city of Detroit for at least 12 months prior to applying for that grant. And they do perform verifications of rent. So, and I'm pointing out rent because again, these are for first time home buyers. So the assumption is excuse me. Excuse me. The assumption is that you are renting somewhere prior to applying for a home loan. So that's for the 25,000. There are other programs where you could still qualify for grant programs, but it is going to take into consideration what the person's income is. So you have family limits on the income, as well as it's going to be address specific. So in the real estate or lending world, we talk about the low to moderate income census tract, which I always like to emphasize to customers or clients that income based lending doesn't mean that you have to fall below some poverty level or what have you, because that low to moderate income tract is going to vary depending on the area that you're targeting.
Okay.
Did I answer your question fully, Charles?
No, I think you kind of alluded to, I was wondering was some lenders work in certain counties. You did
So
mention about the Detroit program. You had to live in the city of Detroit, but it's not limited to. So if you want to get a home like in Oakland County or Macomb, there's still programs available, right?
there are still programs, not the Detroit City grant program, but there are other programs that are available. Like I spoke of that 15,000, which is like a federally funded program that was made available
Okay.
for FHA borrowers. There are also lender specific. I work with one of my lender partners who provides portfolio loans, which means that the bank itself is lending on its own funds. They get to set their parameters for the guidelines for who qualifies for those mortgages. So their program, for instance, is not limited to the city of Detroit. But if you go into, like you said, counties that are outside of Detroit or cities that are outside of Detroit, then income becomes more of a factor. Where the house is located also becomes more of a factor. And I will say, I learned today about a program that is available, is newly available, and it offers borrowers who are approved for an FHA loan. They are able to qualify for up to 3.5% towards the purchase price, 3.5% of the purchase price of the home in a grant to use towards their down payment and closing costs.
So what was the origin of all these programs? Why do you think it's
I
is it
mean, really, because it became, this has been an issue ongoing for a very long time. There have been campaigns and whatnot that talked about the disparity between home values when you're talking about home appraisals, and there being a disparity between the way the homes are valued in, people of communities where there are predominantly people of color, and then other communities where they are predominantly white. There's also the knowledge or the understanding now there's this awareness that some of the limitations that are stopping people from owning a home, which is one of uh, the most impactful ways to build wealth for families and generations, that there was this major roadblock, which is credit is one of them. Also, because there's a lack of financial education that's happening in those communities where you have Black and brown individuals. There's also the issue of home value. So that appraisal piece that also impacted one's ability to purchase a home. And then also the access to resources. Many people in these communities, and I don't mean to stigmatize, but the data has shown that these are some of the things that have prevented people from becoming homeowners and kept them as renters, was because, saving money is hard. We've seen the cost of living in the last 2 to 3 years it become astronomical. You don't want to sacrifice the basic needs for living, like food and gas and clothes and things of that nature, but you want to save money, but the two are just not aligning. So now these programs have been created to make that possible for more people who, there's still some responsibility on the buyer side. You have to come with the correct financial profile. So strong borrower, you have to have strong work history, that credit profile. And I won't get into specifics, but you're looking on average, if you want down payment assistance, they want you to be at about a 620. I do have lender partners who I've worked with in the past who have loaned money to borrowers with like a 600 or a 580 even. But of course, the lower the credit score, the higher your interest rate, because you're deemed to be a higher credit risk. And as well, that means you have to bring more money to the table, because there's that element of debt to income ratio that comes into play. And I don't want to, I don't know how much time we have, so I won't geek out too much on that, but I want to repeat debt to income, because that is a huge factor that impacts so many people, not just Black and brown, but a lot of Black and brown individuals are impacted by debt to income, especially with the student loan. I cringe every time I say it. Especially with student loans. And then, when you talk about the pay gap, all these different things create this one big formula for determining someone's ability to become a homeowner and have that control over their living expenses. I know I've talked for quite some time, but I did want to touch on one more thing that Mayor Dugan said in that clip that you showed. He's like, if you can afford $800 to $1,000 a month in rent, you can afford to be a homeowner. And I, seriously concur with that. In a lot of cases, like the example I gave of the young lady, she's actually saving money by owning. But, we're being realistic and knowing that homes are going to have issues. So you want to do what you can to have funds available to keep and maintain your home. Not only maintain it in the state that you purchased it in, but also do things to update your home so that it's increasing the value steadily. So that just does more to build wealth. And the last thing I will say about that is that the city of Detroit, and I do know that there are some suburbs as well that offer 0% interest home renovation loans. So if you have owned your home, now the city of Detroit only requires 6 months that you've been at the address for 6 months as an owner occupant. But other suburbs will require like a year of good mortgage payment history. And, depending on your income, they look at your income based on your family size to determine whether or not you're eligible for money at 0%. And it's like, I can get a house that is work wittable or, sustainable for the time being, and then borrow money to fix it up and either make improvements or do repairs, because those are two different, conversations. But all of that is, if done properly, is positioning the homeowner or the buyer to be more of a captain of their destiny.
All right. Wow. You kind of touched on it. I wanted to get into if you can elaborate some of the qualifications. I know some is based upon where you purchased the home, but there's some qualifiers, right, for like income, credit history, of course,
So
debt to your debt
that's your
ratio,
income.
debt to
That's
income
your
ratio.
income. Yes. So to elaborate on that, it's going to vary based upon lender. Again, I will say the better your credit score, the more, the better position you put yourself in terms of when you go get that mortgage. You may have qualified for lower interest rates. You may qualify for lower points that the lenders charge for lending you the money and processing your loan. There are a number of different things. So I would say, if you are interested in purchasing a home and becoming a homeowner, ideally you would have a score that's at least in the 700s. But because we don't want to have people wait, and I have people who have put off buying a home to address their credit and not necessarily working with seasoned professionals or credit management people, or people that just have an awareness or an aptitude in credit management, and they have done things in good faith, but they were not having the impact that the borrower would like for them to have. And also, just being a person who is a servant of the community is not having the impact that I would hope it has. So you would want to have a credit score of at least, I would say, if it's attainable, have a credit score in the 700s. There are home loan programs that will lend to borrowers with the 580. But that pretty much, I don't know that there are many, if any, down payment assistance programs that will afford you those funds if you have a score under 600. Also, there is a specific lender that I work with. There may be others, but I know there's a specific lender. And I won't share that name, just in the interest of respecting my other lender partners. But if there are people who are interested, you can definitely connect with me, and I'll share my contact information before we're done, that you can qualify with a 600 credit score.
Okay.
So that's credit, being able to qualify for the home loan and some sort of down payment assistance, if that is something that the home borrower requires. And I know a lot of people want to rely on, they're like, oh, well, if they're giving away money, I want to borrow it, I want to keep my money in my pocket. And there are some situations where that makes sense, to come to the closing table with as little of your personal reserve as you possibly can. But, the thing is to go to your lender and have an educated conversation to ask if that's going to have an impact on the interest rate, because the interest rate is going to impact your payment over the 30 years that you have, 15 to 30 years, whatever length of mortgage you have. Is it going to impact your closing costs? Where you're thinking, oh, I'm getting this money and I'm coming to the closing table with keeping more of my money in my pocket. But if a large part of that down payment assistance is delegated to closing costs, or the points associated with getting that money, then what you have done essentially is impacted your equity position in the house. So, we want to beware and ask the right questions when it comes to soliciting or applying for down payment assistance. But the city of Detroit has their program. I think we've talked about that pretty extensively. And there's another federal program, it's the Chenoa National Grant. That one is something that is new, that is made available for FHA borrowers. There is another grant program that is under development. So the lender that will offer this, they are, again, lending their own, it's a portfolio product. So these funds are being loaned based on the bank's holdings. There's going to be a program, and the amount of down payment assistance has not quite been determined yet, but it is going to be about $10,000 is what I'm told in grant funds. And also, where I talked in the beginning about the Detroit City program having been depleted, the first time they replenished it with, I think, about $10 million. They went through all that money. And so now we're waiting on the next round of funds to be made available, which my sources say maybe sometime like in the first quarter or so. So I'm glad to see that the city of Detroit is staying true to their promise to make these funds available, because they really are having a huge impact.
Yes, awesome, man. So you broke down uh, just the qualifiers, the debt to income ratio, um,
Where you
credit,
live, so
where you
residency
live.
also, I want to point that out, residency. So the city of Detroit, you had to have been a resident in the city for at least 12 months. You
12
have to
months.
remain in the house for at least, I want to say it's 3 years before that grant is forgiven, which
Yeah.
to explain that, they're giving you a grant. It's not a loan per se. So as long as you stay in the house as an owner occupant for the specified time, then that grant is forgiven and you don't have to pay it back. If,
Okay.
for instance, you turn that property into an investment property, if it's a single family home and you turn it into an investment property, or you move out, sell the home, there's going to be some repayment. There's a repayment clause that is in a lot of those down payment assistance in those documentations, which makes sense, right? Like government entities and lenders are not trying to give people money to buy properties to necessarily, you know, uh, broaden your ability to invest. They are giving you the ability to purchase a home, which, in turn can become an investment.
Right.
One exciting thing I will say about some of those programs is that you are able to use them for multifamily units. So just figure, if you can borrow 25,000, or not borrow, but if you can get a grant for 25,000, another one for 10,000, another one for 7,500, and put that towards a multifamily dwelling, you live in one and rent out the other, and there's no violation to the rules that you have
Right.
to abide by.
Okay. All right. So you touched on a lot of things in terms of the qualifiers. Um, and you also emphasize your credit history. And if you don't mind, I wanted to get your response to there's a gentleman. He's kind of popular on the YouTube, Instagram, and someone he feels questions about home buying. He's a mortgage person,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and somebody called and said, "Hey, what if you don't have a credit history?" And he talked a little bit about that. I'm going to share that clip, and I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about that.
Okay.
The question is, again, I'm gonna repeat it. If I have one credit line or trade line of $2,000 and it's in good standing, it's paid on time, would a lender accept that? I thought that was a very great question because trade lines, people don't really think about trade lines and how many open trade lines that you need to have. Now, conventional guidelines are different than FHA guidelines. So let's talk about FHA first. So FHA, if you don't have no credit history or limited credit history, typically FHA wants to see two lines or two trade lines, right, for FHA loan. But if you don't have two trade lines, then they'll use what's called alternative credit. Maybe you have a cell phone bill or your rent payments or something like that that we can document and get added to your credit report. Then the lender will use that.
All right. What's your response? What do you say about that? Is that an option in terms of someone who's maybe haven't been diligent in establishing credit and they need some way to
So
show payment?
that is major, and I'm glad that you played that video, because when you talk about criteria for qualifying for a mortgage, credit history does play a role in your credit score. So a lot of people will think, especially if they haven't necessarily had a lot of experience in the financial or business realm, they will think no credit is good. Well, we don't like to see bad credit. but it's always something that we can work to correct. But then having no credit is, can be as damaging as having, bad credit history. So lenders are lending money based on your credit profile. They want to know that a borrower is a good paymaster. So they want to see a history of, typically it's about 1 year per credit line of on-time payment history. They want to see that your balances are, not maxed out. So what your credit limit is or what your utilization is, that you're not going all the way to the top of that, or even worse, exceeding it. When you talk about trade lines, a lot of lenders will look for late. So, there is that difference, which I didn't talk about, the distinction between conventional loan and FHA. But those are two very distinct type of loan programs. FHA is a federally backed home loan, and typically has a bit more relaxed criteria for lenders as far as down payment requirements, what they will allow from a debt to income ratio standpoint, as well as if you have trade lines. And I know the person in the clip spoke of having at least two. Most of the lenders that I have worked with here in this area are looking for at least 3 trade lines. They like for one of those to be like a revolving credit. So that would be a credit card, a car loan, personal loan, for example. But if you don't have all of those, then some lenders will look at extenuating circumstances, or like mitigating circumstances, and they will look at non-traditional credit, meaning like if you pay your car insurance, you will have to provide a statement and documentation that you have paid those, that you have paid your insurance on time. Cell phone bills, utility bills, these are things that we consider non-traditional, but for borrowers who have not built a strong credit profile of revolving credit and things like that nature, then there's the non-traditional credit that he spoke of. And with those, like, it really becomes important that you don't want to have late payments. And if you have had late payments, it's best to contact the provider who is the creditor in this case, and work out a payment plan. And then the lender looks for proof that you have made, I want to say it's at least 3 consistent payments towards that payment plan. So that's all good, well and good that they are willing to make all of these, different accommodations to make home ownership more affordable. But what it does is push back the timeline, because if you have things that you have to repair on your credit, then you'll have to address those things.
Now, so what's the whole step? I know you mentioned you helped some clients get the funding. You gave a specific case study where a person got almost 50% of equity based upon the stacking of the program. But what is the first step? Do they contact a realtor? They go to the bank? Do they
So there's
call
going
the
to
mayor's office? How do they get started?
It's like the chicken or the egg. In this particular case, I mean, they can reach out to a lender first to apply for a mortgage, or my personal preference or my advice would be to reach out to a realtor that is specialized in the area, at least the widespread area, meaning the state or tri-county area where you are thinking of moving, because that person will be knowledgeable about a few different things. Hopefully, one, they have built relationships with lenders, so that, because we understand not all borrowers are the same. So if I know about different home loan programs that are available, I can, connect you with a multitude of lenders, but I can also speak to the various programs that are available to help, this process either more smooth or more affordable. So I think there's value in reaching out to a realtor first. And now I will say this: most realtors like myself won't show properties unless you have a pre-approval. So that means we're not going to actively go and start looking at homes and doing tours. But I have, I have a consultation with people that come to me and express an interest in becoming a homeowner. And if from those conversations I determine that this is a client that is interested in working with me, and this is a client that is really serious and interested in purchasing a home, they have maybe more questions than they have, confidence that they're ready. One of the things that I like to do is set up a search so that they can get access to active listings that are in areas where they have expressed an interest so that they can see what the market value is. Because a lot of people go based off of conversations that they've had with somebody 20 years ago, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. Homes over in this area, you can buy a really nice home, 3 bedroom, this or that, for 100,000. Well, current market statistics is what's important. So you definitely want to work with a realtor or a real estate professional that can tell you what the current market is demanding for homes that are like what you're looking for.
Now, is it my understanding, even for the programs, you have to take a class or something, right? Or
Yes.
yeah,
So,
how does that normally work?
another good thing about working with a realtor first is because one of the things that happens when you reach out to a lender, they will run your credit if you apply for a mortgage. And, we won't go into how a credit inquiry impacts your credit. But if you have a 400 because like maybe you've applied for a car or something like this, or you just recently filed for bankruptcy 2 months ago, something, not to pigeonhole anyone, but if these are things that you can relate to, then, it's probably better to hold off on applying for a mortgage because you likely won't be deemed to be mortgage ready, if those things are the case. And I'm sorry, I got a little distracted.
No,
Repeat.
no, no, no. I was asking. I know that in a lot of those programs, there's some classes that you have to take, like through the lender or through a separate third party.
So the first
Oh,
time home buyer education course, which I think if you own a home, even or like maybe you inherited one from a family member or something to that effect, this is a great class to take because it not only talks about the home buying process, but it goes over, high level credit management. And it talks about some of the things that you need to purchase a home because, some people will come and they, may not have anything saved in reserve and they hear about these programs offering grants to help with down payment and closing costs. But, you oftentimes have to have some of your own money. And I know that you and I spoke a little bit about a program or someone mentioning that you don't have to have any of your own money. Well, uh, in most cases, and I'm speaking in general terms, but in most cases, they want you to have a minimum of at least $1,000 into the deal when you go to the closing table of your own money. So being able to show that you have that in the bank, even if ultimately your grants and things exceed what your closing costs and down payment are, they want to see that you have that in the bank because, borrowers who are uh, basically overextended are high credit risk in the eyes of lenders.
where can people take these classes? Is it through the
They
banks?
are
Or
offered through
I don't
a
know.
lot of nonprofit organizations, which I will be specific about saying this one, but I will say that it is not limited to this. But National Faith is a nonprofit organization that it operates within the Metro Detroit community. They offer the home buyer education class. There's also you can go through some of your lenders and they will direct you to links where you can access or programs where you can access that class as
Now,
well.
these classes free? You have to pay, and how long are the classes?
So it depends. It depends. There is a charge for the class for most people, unless you go through the nonprofit, which some of them will have funds that they can use to minimize or eliminate your costs for that class. And I know when I took mine, I actually I won't talk about when I took it when I first became a homeowner because that was many moons ago, but I, like I said, believe in refreshing and revisiting that course. And the last time I took it, I did the web version because I wasn't able to go sit in a class all day. So I did, I believe it was 7 hours. at the computer. I attended the class virtually. It cost me $100.
Okay.
And that certificate that I got stating that I completed the class is good for 1 year.
Good for, and most times they're good for a year.
Yes, they're
Yeah.
all good for 1 year for based
Okay.
on my
All right.
experience.
So you take the class first. It's good for a year. If you have credit, decent credit, 600, 620, maybe even 700. You recommend to talk to a lender, think about the areas,
Well,
and
I recommend talking to a realtor. Think about the
I mean, a
areas.
realtor. That's what I
Have
meant.
a discussion about, like
A
what your
realtor,
work history is, what your credit, what you think your credit history might be, so
right?
that you can formulate an idea and talk about what your credit readiness is.
Right.
Now, that doesn't say that you can't skip that step and reach out to a lender first, but I think that the risk of doing that is
Right.
mostly the credit inquiry and the impact to your credit score.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go into more how people can work specifically with you and the services you provide, and also if there's information for people who are interested in investing. But we're going to take a quick break. Come back. We're going to talk about how people can get in contact with you, or specifically with you, and the specific services you provide. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Hey everyone, this is Charles with Detroit Metro Plug Podcast. If you are finding value in today's video, I invite you to subscribe, like, and comment. We would love to hear your feedback. And don't forget to click on that notification bell so you can be notified when we have upcoming episodes of difference makers in the area of entrepreneurship and community involvement. If you're interested in being a part of our Facebook networking community, I invite you to click on the link to be a part of that community. This is a place where you can network with like minded people and a chance to share about your product or service. If you're interested in working with me directly on how you can share your story with video or with podcasting, you can email me direct at DetroitMetroPlug313@gmail.com. Thanks again, and let's get back to this interview. All right, we're back, episode 99 with TaLisa Cohen. She's been breaking down different programs and opportunities for first-time home buyers, defining what that is, being off a title for more than 3 years, also the grant assistance and just the particulars. So we're going to go into, there's people who are going to be watching, they're hearing all this information, maybe have some questions. How people can work with you?
So, how people can work with me? I like to set up a time to do a consultation. I have a Calendly link where you can go on and book a consultation, and it's a no obligation, complimentary appointment. You can access that link by visiting my business Facebook page, which is TaLisa Cohen, the realtor who listens. I'm also reachable by phone, which there is my number on the screen. It's 586-252-1262. I can be reached via email as well. My email is TaLisaisthatdeal@gmail.com, or you can reach me at TaLisa@thenextlevelrealestategroup.com. And then I guess I would say I have all the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and I'm on TikTok, which I'm trying to do better about being consistent on there. I kind of just, have stopped posting, but I'll get back to it because I realized that a large part of my target audience may be living on TikTok these days. So I'm going to get back to that. It is TaLisa the Realtor on TikTok. And let's see, there's my webpage. So TaLisa Cohen .exprealty.com, which I love this avenue for getting in contact with me, because not only will it, trigger me to get a notification that someone has expressed an interest in connecting with me, but it also gives you the ability to, or customers, the ability to go on there and search to see what homes are listed on the MLS. and where many people will rely on Zillow or Trulia, and no knock on any of those services, but they are not regulated the way the MLS is, so the information may or may not be accurate. So you have access to the MLS and the things that are available if you go to my website. So, not being a customer, not being a realtor, you get access to proprietary information, like similar to what me and my colleagues in the field have access to if you go to my website and connect that way.
All right. So now those who are viewing and will watch the replay will know how to get contact with you if they want to work with you via email, website, Calendly. What are some of the services you provide specifically in your niche of for home?
So I love working with first time home buyers, but I do work a lot with sellers as well because my focus in the industry is through maximizing opportunity. Whether that is with a seller being able to sell a home and get out all the equity they've worked so hard to build, or if it's a first time home buyer who is looking to trade that rent payment for a mortgage payment and take control of what their monthly housing costs are, or elevate to that next level, if you will. um, Also with investors. And I like to think that any purchase of property is an investment. So even if it's my primary residence, I go into that and I purchase it, yes, for my family to enjoy and for us to have utility while, we're living in the home. But I'm also looking at the opportunity to build appreciation, so build value in the house. I'm looking at, is this an area where I could likely, once I'm ready to elevate to my next level or downsize because my children have left the home, or whatever my circumstance is this an opportunity where I will be able to charge rent and have a solid stable renter that is living in my house? So like these are the types of things that I think of when I'm working with clients and trying to get an understanding of what their objectives are. So to work with me, you would contact me through one of those mediums that we discussed, and we will have a conversation. And I don't want anybody to leave this conversation thinking that you have to wait until you have all the answers to credit or debt to income or feel like you're ready. Because I feel like to be more prepared, the earlier you start, the better position you can be in, and making sure that the things you are doing to get ready are most impactful, like they're high impact activities. I
Okay.
love and recently Charles mentioned that we both graduated from Wayne State. I do quite a bit of work with uh, the alumni board at Wayne State because I'm like, hey, I want to touch and reach college students because I feel like they're the ideal demographic. Not that I'm restricting my view to them, but I think that they're ideal. When I rented my first apartment many moons ago, I was paying $1,100 a month. I'm thinking if I had taken that and understood what my buying power was and purchased the home, it would have put me in, it would have gave me so much more to leverage. So I'm really passionate about working with that demographic, first time home buyers, but then investors and sellers I work with as well. I've been really successful in working with people who are relocating. So either they're leaving Michigan and moving to another state because of work or whatever their circumstances are,
Right.
or people who are moving from other states to come and become residents of the state of Michigan. I also take those clients on, and I think what makes me valuable there is my extensive network of resources to make that process as streamlined as possible, because there's so many different things that go into a move, right? And so you want somebody who can offer you solutions. And I've been really, me and my team of affiliates have been very successful in doing that and helping people come here, establish roots in this area, and see value without the headache.
Yes. Wow. So you provide a lot of services with different people with different needs, and it's
So
great that you are doing great work with first time home buyers, which is your love and passion there, and helping people qualify those with those programs. That's awesome.
connecting people with lenders that offer the programs, connecting them with sources where they can obtain grants.
Right.
There's also the piece of like investors who may be out of state. I'm like their boots on the ground here where I can go and provide comprehensive market analysis if they're interested in a particular house or want me to source a house where they feel like there's going to be where it seems like there's going to be opportunity for there to be a decent spread between your acquisition cost or your cost to purchase and then what it would cost to renovate that home and either turn it into a buy and hold or a flip opportunity. So I've been doing a lot of those types of services as well. I'm excited about that. Working with sellers, like I said, to list, and even I work with renters too. So some people will think that you can't work with someone who is a real estate agent or a licensed professional in this area if you're renting. But I and a number of my colleagues will work. Well, let's talk specifically about me. I do work with renters, and not that I'm trying to force anybody into home ownership, but typically when I'm working with renters, the idea is to make them customers. In my Instagram handle is TaLisa, your whole life realtor. So what that means is that it's more than just the one transaction for me. It's thinking about like what this means for you long term. Are you going to revisit and maybe grow to the next level or a different level? What resources do you need while you're in your home? A lot of my clients reach back to me for information about contractors that I work with and trust. They reach out to me about, hey, do you know about any programs where I can get a renovation loan? And we kind of touched on that. So, I'm the person that is constantly always out here making use and maximizing our relationships so I can translate that into value to my clients.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What would you say, just in our area, how would you, on a scale of 1 to 5, how is the housing market? 5 being, or
The
maybe
housing market is
1 to 2.
solid. I mean,
Solid?
it really is solid.
I know mortgage rates have, with the Fed, everything
Mortgage
have been
rates
going up.
mortgage rates fluctuate like they always have. And, during the pandemic, that was extraordinary times where we were seeing interest rates at like 2%. And like, I'm not going to say that we don't ever want to see that again, but if you understand what factors came into play for those interest rates to be offered, I don't want to be involved in those again with like a housing crash or very high unemployment, property values being very upside down. So with the various practices that have taken place since like the subprime or mortgage crash, housing market crash, and all that, like borrowers today, and some of them get frustrated. I will say and ask you to be patient if you're applying for a loan. It's serious business, and the banks aren't trying to necessarily prevent you from getting money, but they want to basically vet how solid a borrower you are, because the solidarity of the borrowers that we have who are borrowing money to purchase these homes is what our housing market depends on. Because if you start seeing like droves of foreclosures, then me, I own my home, I pay my mortgage on time, like my whole neighborhood is up in foreclosure, like that decreases the value of my home. So I don't want to see that.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you taking your time to give this valuable information. I want to encourage everyone to check out TaLisa Sales Home Cohen. Check out her Instagram handles, her email, TaLisa that deal at Gmail. We've posted up her phone number. You can contact by phone, email, Instagram, DM her, slide in her DMs.
Hey,
If you're looking for start with her, so don't go to the lenders, don't be calling the mayor's office.
right, you can get a lot of
There's other
questions.
programs in Oakland County and Wayne County and Macomb. You want to check out TaLisa Sales Home Cohen. She's, as you can see, she's very knowledgeable. She's going to get you straight. And don't wait. Don't be like, oh man, I'm not gonna, she'll help you get you ready.
It's
Uh,
imperative that they
yeah,
don't wait because, like what we have seen, I kind of threw out that statistic about the 23% appreciation for homes in Detroit. Well,
yeah,
that's not just Detroit. That has been a statistic that we have, a trend rather, that we have seen be consistent across Michigan. So, while it's great to get in and purchase a home, like you want to make sure that the idea is to have the most buying power and not to try to time the market or wait till the market crashes. It's like the best seat to be in is the ownership seat, honestly.
Yes. Wow. So I thank you again. I appreciate you and celebrate what you're doing. And you were my fourth guest when I started this podcast almost 2 years ago. Well, almost 2.5 years ago. I'm going to share a quick clip. It's interesting to show the difference from now. Just a quick clip.
Okay.
Before we go into what you do as it pertains to real estate, do you mind sharing just a little bit about yourself, anything you feel comfortable with, where you grew up, a little bit about your background?
Absolutely. So I am a native Detroiter. I was born and raised in Detroit. A graduate of Cass Tech, that is Cass Tech High School. Um, I am a mother of four, also a devoted member of Gamma Phi Delta Sorority Incorporated, and part of one of the baddest real estate collaborations in Metro Detroit, in the Metro Detroit area. My work experience.
So that was a clip, almost 20 years. So you haven't aged. You look like you haven't aged. That was 2 years ago. I just had just one microphone. I was on Zoom, and now we got banners and slides and screens and all that
Which
stuff.
is a great testament to the viewers that are watching this consistency and deciding on a direction and just
Yeah,
chopping away at it. And don't
yeah.
let what you feel like maybe limited resources stop you from
Right,
doing
right,
it.
right.
Because now,
Yeah, I always tell
Charles
people
is the plug and he has blown up.
yeah, I always tell people you got to start messy and get better each day. And if you're waiting for everything to be perfect, you're never going to get started.
Mhm.
I think there's a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King. Um, you don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step.
I love
And
that.
in podcast, you just got to press record and start recording and put the reps in and learn as you're going and get better. And I intentionally keep those old videos up
Yeah.
so people can
I
see.
I
Like,
love that because one of the challenges is if you break into something that's new or you're a pioneer in something, like a lot of the clients that I work with may be,
yeah,
the first person to purchase a home in their family or, in their immediate family. So it's not to let ourselves be limited based on the scope of what we know to be true. Like we really have to think about the possibilities and the opportunities. And all these programs we talked about today, and there are more, really are making it where I won't say there are no people that don't qualify to become a homeowner. Maybe not today, but with
right.
a plan, everybody can achieve that.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, episode 99, TaLisa Cohen. Thank you again.
I'm excited about 99. Thanks again, Charles.
You're welcome. Well, that wraps up our podcast for this evening. I'll be here next week. Next Monday, we go live with another guest, a difference maker. We're going to be talking about, she's in the personal training, fitness. A lot of people have a lot of goals for the year in terms of weight loss and exercising. She's going to talk about how you can maintain that and stay focused. 'Cause a lot of times people start off by the third, fourth week in January, they're falling off. The gyms will be crowded. Planet Fitness, first week. All the machines being used after work. Then by the third week, it falls off. So she's going to talk about what you can do to stay focused on your goals. That'll be episode 100. We're going to do a celebration of the 100 plus episodes. Also, just a reminder, book club. You can join us virtually or in person. We're reading Atomic Habits, the first 5 chapters. And basically, I started this book club. It was really for selfish reasons. It's for me, keep me accountable to reading at least 4 books in the area of personal development and business and growth so that I can learn and grow. Because I believe that leaders are readers and you always got to be constantly learning. So by having a book club keeps me accountable to read, and we go through different chunks. so you don't have to feel overwhelmed. So if you're interested in that, you can email me at hello@EmpowerYouVentures, hello@EmpowerYouVentures. I can send you the link, or you can join us. It's a slight change. We're going to be meeting at the Panera Bread in Southfield. My the co-host, he had a conflict of schedule. He's an attorney, and he had something going on, so we can't have it there. But you'll hear more about that. So thanks again. See you next Monday. You guys be blessed.